Hello, my name is Spencer Cross. I'm one of the nurse practitioners at Northern Michigan Med Center in Petoskey. I've been asked to give a quick and brief summary of exactly what the COVID vaccine is, why it's different, and why I think everyone who can get it should. Let me start off by saying that the COVID vaccination is different than any other vaccination really in history. In the past, we've primarily had two types of vaccinations. We've had live viruses and dead virus vaccinations when we're speaking of viral vaccinations. Let's think about the virus as like a Jaguar car and the hood ornaments of the Jaguar on the Jaguars as the part that the body recognizes and creates an antibody to fight against. So in the past with the live viral vaccines, you would take basically the virus and put it in chimpanzees and pigs and basically let it mutate for enough life cycles that it was something that still had the hood ornament that the body could recognize, but it wouldn't get anywhere on the body. It's essentially like taking a boat with a Jaguar hood ornament and putting it on the freeway. The body recognizes that it's not supposed to be there and that the hood ornament is there to create an antibody against, but it really can't get places in the body to cause much damage. Now, those would take years of research because you had to make sure that the virus couldn't mutate in a way that would affect the body or allow it to actually be able to go around the body. So that's why the live viruses took so much longer, and even those are only about 75% effective. Now, when you look at dead viruses, basically what we would do is take a Jaguar car again, but smush it. And when you do that, you hope you leave the hood ornament intact, so that the body can still recognize it, but because it's smushed and dead, it can't go anywhere. And so basically, the reason we had to study that for years was because we had to make sure that this dead virus wouldn't cause the body to create this anaphylactic reaction because you're injecting a dead thing into the body. So each of those took years of research and time to make sure they're killing them effectively and they're not alive, and a bunch of other items, preservatives that people have argued about for years. Now, with each of those two types of viral vaccinations, they had one thing in common. The body would, step one, see the virus and see the hood ornament. Step two, they would go ahead and code out a antibody for that hood ornament. And then they would give that code to the rest of the immune system for them to start 3D printing out antibodies to fight against that virus. Now that just takes time. It's only about 70 to 75% effective actually, which is why you hear so many people who have gotten chickenpox vaccine in the past have actually gotten chickenpox in their teens or in their adult years. Now, the COVID virus vaccination is completely different. Basically, it's using a new technology where it's called mRNA technology, where the researchers looked and said, the spike on the COVID protein is actually the hood ornament. And what if we just take the coding for that spike, instead of using any part of the virus, so let's say the RNA code for that is 2326. They basically take that and they're putting them in little protein flash drives and just delivering them to the immune system. So there's no dead virus, there's no live virus, there's no virus anything in this vaccination. It's essentially just the RNA coding for the spike in a protein flash drive delivered to the 3D printer of the body. And so just pumping out these antibodies. It's actually quite fantastic because when you look at that, you're not having any risk of infection or any risk of issue, and you're just quickening the response. And that actually causes about a 95% immunity they're finding, which is substantial. Plus, you don't have any risk of any other issues. You don't have the preservatives, the mercury analogs that people get really worried about in other vaccinations. So it's very safe. So that's how it's different than the other vaccinations. Now, in full disclosure, I am about 3 weeks out from my first Pfizer vaccination myself, and I'm getting my second dose this upcoming Monday. Short-term side effects that they're seeing, really, you have a sore arm for a day and a half, kind of like a tetanus shot, nothing super severe. Some people, because you are creating the immune system to create this immune response to create these antibodies, some people will have some body aches for a day or so, and it goes away within 24 hours. It's nothing serious or nothing severe that we're seeing in the general population. Now, why is this safer than other vaccinations? Well, you don't have the preservatives. You don't have any of the... Really, all you have is saline, the RNA coding, and the protein components to create the flash drive. It's not much in there, honestly. And one thing I hear a lot of people saying, like, oh, I'm young, I'm just going to get the COVID, and I'll create antibodies to it naturally, and I'll be fine, and we'll have herd immunity. That sounds great in theory, except for the reality that not everyone who gets coronavirus makes antibodies. I have multiple young 30s patients in my practice who have gotten COVID-19 at the beginning of this pandemic, and they've actually gotten it a second time because they did not create any antibodies that first time around. And furthermore, for the people who did create antibodies, I have multiple people who they got it in February, and I've been testing them every 2 months to see how long are these antibodies going to last. They're averaging right around 6 to 9 months that it's lasting. And that's possible in a scenario. Some people it's 2 to 4 months. You just don't know. There's no consistency. It's not like chickenpox where you get it once and you're good for life. And they're showing that this vaccination should hopefully perhaps last as long as 5 to 10 years, which maybe needing a booster somewhere in there, but that's pretty fantastic for a vaccination where it gives you 95% immunity, essentially not requiring you to wear a mask whatsoever or risk transmitting this to your loved ones. And finally, even if we're putting just the immunity aspect of it aside, the last thing that was really worrisome about coronavirus is the long-term effects. It's not the death. We all know that not many people are dying from this. But the issue is it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're young you're going to be safe. I have multiple people who are young, healthy, triathletes, athletes of various calibers. They can't even run a mile anymore. There's multiple people for 2 to 4 months afterwards completely fatigued. Just getting up and making dinner is enough to make them need a 2-hour nap. And that's not a way you want to live either. And you might be totally fine. But unfortunately, it's a chance. There's no particular risk factor that says you for sure will or won't have this reaction. I've had healthy people with no comorbidities or no issues have these issues. So that's the problem. You just don't know. Whereas what we're seeing from this vaccination, we know the components. We know that it's safe as far as we can tell from our research here. And yes, I know it's a new thing, but with the technology behind it, it's so much safer than previous vaccinations. It's so much more effective. And I think it's a great idea for you to use if you want to keep yourself safe and your family safe. So my recommendation for you is understanding the science behind it and looking at the benefits of getting it and the consequences. I really do believe that the benefits outweigh the consequences of getting this. And that I would definitely encourage you to go ahead and get that and reach out to us if you have any questions. We're more than happy to answer them for you. But it looks like on January 11th, Governor Whitmer is going to be allowing more officers and other employments to be able to go ahead and get the vaccination. So I encourage everyone who can to get it. Let's make sure that there's enough of us vaccinated to be able to stop the spread of COVID-19 so it doesn't mutate. Because the more of us that don't get the vaccine and keep spreading this virus around, the more chance it has to mutate and to become a level of COVID that the vaccination doesn't cover against, which would set this whole chain in motion again, which none of us want to be on lockdown again. So I hope this is informative, and if any questions, please feel free to comment below and to contact us at the clinic. We'd be more than happy to help. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.